Greetings cats and kittens, and welcome to another episode of Baggy Hi-Fi. This is the fourth episode of this channel devoted to record collecting, vinyl records. I thought I'd make this a quick one, just a summary of the records I managed to buy on my recent holiday in Scotland. And I have my tartan co-op bag here with the records I bought over the last week when I was there. I spent the beginning of the holiday in Loch Lomond just having some quiet time, and then I visited friends in Glasgow and also called in at Stirling and Dunbar. I love Scotland, lots of great record shops as well, and so here's the beginning of what I bought. I went to Europa Records in Stirling. It's a great shop. New stuff in the front and CDs in the front of the shop, and then you walk into the back room, which looks a bit like a jumble sale, but as you have to dig through to find what you're after. I bought, first of all, at Europa Records in Stirling, this release by the Mandrake Memorial, a Psych band from the late 60s, maybe Psych on the edge of progressive. Most well known for their album The Puzzle from 1969. This is an album which was never released at the time. They had a deal to record with the producer Shel Talmy, famous for producing The Kinks and The Who. But that fell through, but they remained in England and recorded this album, which was never released. And some of the material did go on to the album called The Puzzle. So this is a release from the Flashback Records. Really nice package, very thick card gatefold sleeve with some posters, reproductions of posters from when they played with other more famous psychedelic bands. The whole album is sort of woozy and meandering. I think I need to give it a few more listens. It's not really up to the standard of their official releases, but the package you really can't fault. Has a really nice booklet, details about the recording of the record, and this has just fallen out. A 7-inch single of 2 tracks also by the Mandrake Memorial. Now I went into the back room of Europa Records and I bought this, Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes, sort of a notorious album which was said around about the time, 1973. That Yes had gone too far in their self-indulgence. Here it is. Roger Dean cover, of course, from their classic era with Rick Wakeman and John Anderson. You might say, those of you familiar with this record, why does it have a glossy cover? Well, this is a Spanish pressing of this double album, so some of the track names are actually in Spanish. It's really nice condition. So La Ciencia Reveladora de Dios. My Spanish isn't what it used to be. I picked up a reissue of a Sun Ra album. This is When Sun Comes Out by Sun Ra and his Myth Science Orchestra, recorded in '62. I think these reissues are from Russia on the DOL label. Do a good job of the reissues, make these original Saturn releases accessible to all. Good record as ever. Massive discography, of course. Sun Ra had Marshall Allen, John Gilmore. It's said that on this one John Gilmore was starting to expand his vocabulary on the sax and starting to move into other dimensions. Sun Ra was already in another dimension. Another jazz album, reissue, Mingus Oh Yeah. Slightly different from other Charles Mingus releases because he's normally known as a bassist and a composer, but on this he plays piano and actually sings. I listened to this yesterday afternoon and this thing really does swing. It's a real joyful album. Great to listen to on a Saturday afternoon. Mingus Oh Yeah. Next I moved on to Dunbar, a place I've been to a couple of times. Lovely place on the coast, moving over to the east coast of Scotland. Very good record shop in the main street there called Green Cat Records. Spent about an hour looking through every single box there, and turned up these 3 goodies. Bebop Deluxe. This is their first album, very much influenced by Bowie, very glam, as you can see from leader Bill Nelson there, sporting quite a bit of makeup. But, you know, distinctively Bill Nelson with his unmistakable guitar style. This is not the gatefold, sadly. This is an American issue, but a really nice pressing, sounds really loud, and it's one of my favourites by Bebop Deluxe. Not everyone's taste, no one seems to really speak about them much at all on the vinyl community, but I like this album a lot. Nice to have a copy. Bebop Deluxe, Axe Victim. I think this is from '74. Now recently I've been returning to interest in poetry, in English poetry, 60s poetry, 70s poetry, Adrian Henry, Roger McGough. The Scaffold included Roger McGough, the poet, and the Scaffold were the kind of partly members of this group, Grimm's. Also in this band, well, the poets, Adrian Henry, Brian Patton, and John Gorman, Michael McGear, Paul McCartney's brother, of course. They formed this this group in the early 70s after Scaffold folded. Also on here, I must mention, is Neil Innes, the late Neil Innes, who died just at the end of last year. This is the live album. This is the first album by Grimm's, and it's a mixture of poetry recorded live, music by Zoot Money. Listened to this the other day. I think they had 2 other albums released on Island Records, 1973. Recorded at St George's Hall, Liverpool, and the Central Polytechnic, London. Nice sort of press release there about Grimm's. So that was Chiefs in Dunbar. Grimm's first album recorded live. £7, I think that one was. And finally, Peter Hamill, Fool's Mate, his first solo album, but this is more or less a Van der Graaf Generator LP, really. All the band members are on it. Unlike a lot of his Peter Hamill's later recordings, these songs are very short, succinct. This album, recorded in 1971, just reeks 1971. You can almost smell the patchouli and the loon pants. It's also features Robert Fripp, listed here as Bob Fripp, very familiar, and also some members, Ray Jackson and Dave Jackson, Ray Jackson of Lindisfarne, who was also on the Charisma label. This is not an early pressing, it's on the blue Charisma label, but you don't see very many Peter Hamill records out in the wild in the record shop, so I bought this one. I think this was £7. Plays very well. Peter Hamill, Fool's Mate. Thanks for tuning in. I only have 7 subscribers at the moment, but I would like some more, so please do consider being a subscriber to Baggy Hi-Fi. See you in the next video. Bye for now.